In this video we are going to talk about United States of America. So before starting this video, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future updates. The United States of America, also known simply as the United States or America, is a country that is primarily situated in North America. Its official name is the United States of America, U.S.A. or U.S.A. It is made up of 326 different Indian reservations, 50 states, a federal district, 5 major unincorporated territories, and 9 minor outlying islands. It is the world's fourth largest country by land area, and it is the third largest country in terms of total area, with an area of nearly 3.8 million square miles, 9.8 million square kilometers. The United States shares land borders with Canada to the north and Mexico to the south, as well as maritime borders with the Bahamas, Cuba, and Russia, among others. With more than 331 million people, it is the third most populous country in the world. The national capital is Washington, D.C., and the most populous city and financial center is New York City. Paleo Indians migrated from Siberia to the North American mainland at least 12,000 years ago, and European colonization began in the 16th century. The United States emerged from the 13 British colonies established along the East Coast. Disputes with Great Britain over taxation and political representation led to the American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, which established the nation's independence. In the late 18th century, the U.S. began expanding across North America, gradually obtaining new territories, sometimes through war, frequently displacing Native Americans, and admitting new states. The enslavement of African Americans was legal in the southern United States until the second half of the 19th century, when the American Civil War led to its abolition. The Spanish-American War and World War I established the U.S. as a world power, and the aftermath of World War II left the United States and the Soviet Union as the world's two superpowers. During the Cold War, both countries fought in the Korean and Vietnam War but avoided direct armed conflict. The two nations competed in the space race, culminating in the 1969 American spaceflight that first landed humans on the moon. The Soviet Union's dissolution in 1991 ended the Cold War, leaving the United States as the world's sole superpower. The United States of America has been involved in a number of wars and conflicts in the Middle East since the end of the Cold War. The United States of America is a federal presidential constitutional republic that consists of 3 distinct branches of government, including a legislature that is split into 2 chambers. It was one of the original members of numerous international institutions, including the United Nations, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the Organization of American States. It maintains its seat on the Security Council of the United Nations at all times. The United States of America is a member of a number of different military alliances, such as NATO and AUKUS, in addition to having unilateral partnerships with Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines. Its population, which is sometimes referred to as a melting pot of different cultures and races, has been deeply affected by immigration over the course of centuries. The United States is a liberal democracy. It has a high ranking on worldwide measures of economic freedom, quality of life, education, and human rights, and it has low levels of corruption that are viewed by the public. The United States, in contrast to most other Western democracies, does not have universal healthcare, continues to practice the death penalty, and has high rates of incarceration as well as inequality. The United States of America is a highly developed country, and its economy is the largest in the world in terms of GDP when measured in market exchange rates. This is because the United States accounts for approximately a quarter of the global GDP. The United States is the world's greatest importer of products and the world's second largest exporter of goods as measured by value. Despite having only 4.2% of the entire population in the globe, it owns more than 30% of the total wealth in the world, making it the country that owns the highest part of any country's wealth. The United States is not only the most powerful military force in the world but also a dominant force in politics, culture, and science. Its military spending accounts for more than a third of the world's total military budget. At current market exchange rates, the United States gross domestic product, GDP, of $22.7 trillion accounts for 24% of the gross world product. However, when measured in terms of purchasing power parity, the United States GDP accounts for over 16% of the gross world product. The national debt of the United States was estimated to be $30 trillion as of February 2, 2022. The United States is the world's largest buyer of goods and the world's second largest exporter of goods, despite the fact that its exports per capita are quite low. The overall trade deficit for the United States in 2010 was $635 billion. Its most important trading partners are the European Union, Canada, China, and Mexico, followed by Japan. The actual compounded annual growth rate of the United States gross domestic product, GDP, was 3.3% from 1983 to 2008, compared to a weighted average of 2.3% for the rest of the G7 countries. The nation's nominal GDP per capita places it in 5th place globally, while its PPP GDP per capita places it in 7th place globally. The United States dollar is the principal reserve currency used around the world. In 2009, it was estimated that the private sector made up 86.4% of the economy. Even though its economy has advanced to a post-industrial phase of development, the United States is still a major player in the industrial sector. In August of 2010, there were 154.1 million people participating in the American workforce, 50%. The public sector is the main field of employment, with a total workforce of 21.2 million workers. The healthcare and social support sector employs 16.4 million people, making it the largest employment sector in the private sector. When compared to the majority of other high-income countries, it has a more limited welfare system and redistributes a lesser percentage of its citizens' income through government programs. The United States of America is one of the few countries in the world that does not recognize paid family leave as a fundamental human right and is the only advanced economy that does not provide paid vacations for its employees. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, around 74% of full-time workers in the United States are eligible for paid sick leave, but just 24% of part-time workers receive the same benefits. As of the year 2019, around 80% of the United States' energy comes from the combustion of fossil fuels. In 2019, the most significant contributor to the nation's overall energy supply was petroleum, which accounted for 36.6% of the total, followed by natural gas, 32%, coal, 11.4%, renewable sources, 11.4%, and nuclear power, 11.4%. 8.4%. However, despite having a population that is less than 5% of the total, Americans are responsible for 17% of the world's energy use. They are responsible for around 25% of the world's use of petroleum, but they only produce 6% of the annual quantity of petroleum that the world has available. The United States of America is home to a large number of distinct cultures as well as a diverse range of ethnic groups, customs, and values. Nearly all Americans or their ancestors immigrated to the country within the past 5 centuries, with the exception of the populations of Native Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Native Alaskans. Slaves were also brought to the country during this time period. The dominant culture in the United States is a Western culture that is largely derived from the customs of European immigrants. In addition, the dominant culture in the United States is influenced by many other sources, including the customs that were brought by slaves from Africa. Recent immigration from Asia and particularly Latin America has contributed to a cultural mix that has been described as a homogenizing melting pot. Immigrants contribute to and frequently assimilate into the culture of mainstream America. Traditional traits of the American people include a strong work ethic, competitiveness, and individualism. Additionally, the American people share a common belief in an American creed that emphasizes liberty, equality, private property, democracy, rule of law, and a preference for limited government. A British study conducted in 2006 found that Americans gave 1.67% of their GDP to charity, which was more than any other nation that was studied at the time. This indicates that Americans are among the most charitable people in the world. The American dream, often known as the belief that Americans enjoy considerable social mobility, plays a significant influence in the nation's ability to attract immigrants. Nevertheless, the veracity of this view has been the subject of much discussion. Although popular culture maintains that the United States is a classless society, academic research identifies significant differences between the social classes that exist in the country. These differences are found to have an effect on socialization, language, and values. Americans have a propensity to place a high value on socioeconomic performance. Nevertheless, it is also generally accepted that being ordinary or average is a favorable characteristic. What do you think about this video? Do let us know down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from us again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you